Sunlight begins to fade now, and I feel like I'm losing time, but I don't know how I'm here. The sunlight has turned to gray, and I feel like I'm losing love again. I don't know how I'm here. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel it somewhere you're looking down. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel it somewhere you're looking down. 'Cause it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna breathe. And it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna need.
Hello ladies, hello gentlemen, welcome to Sim Racers World TV for the, well, it's not the Sim Racers World GT Pro Series, and let me get that fixed straight away. This is the SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 World League Round 3 here, indeed, from Lime Rock Park. And I am, of course, amidst the confusion. There it is. Much better. Amidst all the confusion, I'm joined by the lovely Scotsman Peter MacKay. Peter, how are we doing tonight?
I'm very well, Hasse. I'm glad I'm not responsible for pressing all the buttons like you, because I couldn't do two things at once. I can just about talk about race cars, but that's about the limit of my capabilities, and I marvel at your ability to do both at the same time.
Well, I'm still just learning in the field here, I have to say, to the tutorage of the master wizard that is Chas Dracut, indeed, here. But we're in for a good round of racing, I believe, here. Lime Rock Park, and mind you, this is the old layout. It's the new version, so it's the newly laser scanned version of the old, sweeping, fast, and need I say also a little bit dangerous layout. We're of course in the GT3 machines today, which means we're going to be in for some very good racing. And I'm just gonna let the music fade, and we are going to go to live pictures from Lime Rock Park to Cohen Mulder, who's in the pit lane. Interesting shots here. Interesting facts, though, the race organizers telling us before the race that practice sessions during the race, or the week here, had seen up to 15 drivers within 0.8 of a second. And of course, it is a short lap of less than a minute here as we go on with Dejan, I guess it is actually, he's Croatian, Dejan Pavicic, who is for the first time this season up there in the standings. Now, mind you, we are just about 6.5 minutes from the end of this hour-long practice session that's been going on, and that means we'll be running into the 20 minutes qualifying session. And a little change to the format this week, because instead of 30 minutes of racing, we're gonna have 40 minutes of racing. And I also do believe that we'll have the drivers on Now I'm actually struggling to recall the exact percentage. I'm just gonna look it up.
45%.
45. Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much for saving me there and not looking like a complete idiot at least. But anyways, 45% of fuel, which means, and this is of course the important part, meaning that the drivers will have to pit. Oh, Stian Pavicic gets it loose on the rears there. And Jack, we could do it this time, but I was actually considering doing it in 2 weeks' time because we really won't have a lot of time to chat here over a lap that's this short anyway. We're still watching Stian Pavicic, who had a little bit of an incident before, and I think most of the drivers still just getting accustomed to how the track feels, conditions, and so on. And speaking of track conditions, see if I can do anything to recall the weather from anywhere here, if that is possible.
I had a look just a moment ago, Hasse. It's about 113 degrees Fahrenheit track temperature, so very, very high here this time of year in Connecticut. And that really high track temperature is going to make this Lime Rock circuit very, very tricky because it makes that higher temperature makes the track really greasy and really slippy, and especially this particular section here where they go over the jump. Look at that. It's a proper rally style jump there going over the uphill bend of turn 5, and you saw the BMW there looking like it was going to take off, but thankfully they've got enough aerodynamics. But look at that in Celsius, 45 degrees centigrade track temperature. So that's very, very high. And although we have a 40-minute race, we won't expect the drivers to take tyres. They'll just come in for a little splash of fuel anywhere between sort of 25 minutes and, 20 to 30 minutes into the race. We'll see our drivers taking their pit stops, but that'll just be for fuel. However, at the end of the 40-minute race, the tyres will be really under quite a bit of pressure. So we'll see. As you've got a friend in the commentary box there, Hasse. Here.
I have a friend living with me. Her name is Stella. It's my dog. She's a 3-year-old mixed breed of a Keeshond. That is a Dutch Spitz type of dog, and a bit of Border Collie, a bit of Belgian Tavern, as well as Stian Pavicic just got sent into the pit lane. Oh my word! That was one of the, and I want to see if I can get another look at Stian Pavicic's pit entrance here, because I think it's going to be a rather interesting one. Let's see if we can just get an. Oh, that was a bit too early. Let's get another shot there because I want to get it on board. I want to see just how it looked. Look at the Mercedes, and then there's an Audi. And you know what, Peter? I think he actually did rather well to avoid that situation there. Stian Pavicic, he's now cooling off. Yeah, cooling off in the pit lane.
He will have a pit lane. He will have a pit lane speeding penalty. I think we can guarantee that.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, hair racing moment. Code Brown, as they say. Code Brown, indeed. We're watching the Audi R8 of Drew Williams. A very colorful livery, indeed. And I think on his tail is the 83 Vodafone Mercedes of Eric Verleeg, indeed, who is going well in the standings, and Stella agrees to that. She's an Eric Verleeg fan. But speaking of the standings, I'll bring you over to Peter for the read-through.
So leading the championship at the moment is Nico van Geel in the, oh no, I'm looking at the wrong part of the, sorry, this is going well. Right, at the top is number 31 of Valdir Suarez Jr., who has won both of the opening races of the season, both at Okayama and Silverstone. But only 8 points behind is Kamal Hashimi in the number 37 Audi. In third is Eric Verleeg in the Mercedes on 48 points. Peter Plastow is in fourth in his Ferrari on 40 points. Koen Mulder in another Ferrari is on 36 points. Savino Milio, the Italian, in of course a Ferrari, is on 35. Dirk Reske he's the leading McLaren. He's on 29, joint with Pedro Marimon Cladera. Stephen Orell in the number 68 Mercedes on 27 points right now. And rounding out the top 10 is Dirk Brinksma in the Audi on 25.
So still close here, of course, just 2 rounds in, but I am quite interested to see drivers in the top 3 separated by just 4 points here. Everything still to play for. Now, we did see Dejan Pavicic earlier in the practice session being atop the leaderboard for quite some time indeed. That is no longer the case, as Valdir Suarez Jr. has indeed taken his rightful place atop the standings. I want to say we've seen nothing else from him so far this season. He has been absolutely atop of things here, and it looks to me, Peter, that the Ferraris are going pretty well here at Lime Rock Park.
It seems so, yeah. The mid-engine layout of the Ferrari will really help here with the maneuverability. You know, you need a car that has very good changes of directions. The Audi, the Ferrari is kind of what you need around here. But also the BMW is the Z4, although it's front-engined, it's renowned for its nimble handling as well. So although it's not got massive grunt in a straight line, but that's not necessarily important here at Lime Rock Park. It's all really about the maneuverability of the car. So we're going to see, I think we might see the order being shaken up a little bit here. And of course, we mustn't forget about our dear old Ford GT. Chris Pio in 14th place right now, holding up the honour for Detroit in his Ford GT GT3 in the number 5 machine, a car we dearly love here on Sim Racers World TV.
Yeah, it's a dearly loved car, we have to say. It holds a special place in our somewhat hipsterish hearts, Peter and I, at the moment, as we have qualifying getting underway now. Let's see if we can get a shot of the cars leaving the pit lane. And coming on to, of course, what is a very, very short warm-up lap indeed. So getting the right temperature into everything, I hardly even think that's possible within the space of a single lap. Chris Pio seemingly taking his time in getting out there. We'll see who we get out there quickly. That's Koen Mulder in the Ferrari. He's on the tail of, I was about to say Martin van Rooijbeek, but he's not racing this series. But there is another Martin, however, it's Martin de Jong. And Martin de Jong is in the Mercedes AMG GT3, and now sponsored by our series sponsor, SimracerCoin, which is a brilliant idea, actually. I've gone in and read a bit about it, and it's an idea that's going to be bringing... I was about to say Bitcoin, but that's not the correct term. Of course, cryptocurrency is, to sim racing and matching the two. And they have dreams of being able to offer stuff like league series and championships, where you actually have to pay for the damage. I mean, not in full one-to-one scale, of course. That, I think, would scare away the most of any potential customers. But the idea that it costs you a little bit whenever you have a wreck, that might just enforce some even cleaner and even more immersive racing. You can look up SimracerCoin if you want to look, and I want to have a look and know a bit more about the project itself. Now, we're into qualifying session, Peter, and we have got 20 minutes to get it done here, and I think with such a short track they should be able to put in at least 12 to 14 hot laps and still have good, nice, fresh tires for all of them, and I think we're going to see a competitive session here.
Absolutely, and it's all about your track position here and having clean track and clean air in front of you. There's not really any benefit at all from aerodynamic tow like there is at tracks like Monza, for example, or even Silverstone, where we went last time out. But here at Lime Rock Park, you just need space. Space is at a premium here in Connecticut. Expensive for real estate and valuable on the racetrack as well. So the quick drivers, they really need to try and get themselves some open space, and once they've got it, just turn laps as much as they can, because the great thing is with 50-second laps and a 20-minute qualifying session, you've got lots of opportunities to hit those fast laps. You just get out there and lap as many as you possibly can, and go from there.
That is a very viable strategy indeed here in qualifying, Mr. Jet Set Radio. We should have that up on screen now, of course. So that's the the least of problems anyways. But it is 20 minutes and we're about 3.5 minutes into it. And by the way, a very, very warm welcome to everyone watching on YouTube, on Twitch, and on our Facebook page. A very good evening to you on this Sunday evening, a summer's evening throughout the entirety of Europe, I believe. We've seen some very hot weather indeed over the last few days over the continent, and it's set to continue. And while we're watching Robert van der Heuvel, now it should be said, I have been fiddling with the overlay, trying to get it to say van den Heuvel, and I just haven't been able to get it to properly show his name. So Rob the Lobster, I could try to change it to Rob the Lobster, but I'm not sure he would like the level of seriousness in the end. By the way, Robert van der Heuvel, of course, our series organizer as well. So a bit of extra reason to take it serious, I believe. But I'm sorry, Peter. Go on.
Kamal, he's up to the top now in his Audi, second place in the championship. Eric Verlet in the Mercedes right there as well. So we're seeing the top guys in the championship really coming on strong so far, with Pavičić, although hasn't had a good start, he's right up there, and clearly his BMW Z4 settling in nicely to this Lime Rock Park circuit. Of course, the circuit here has been open since 1957. It's one of the proper historic North American sports car racing circuits, and actually the track layout was designed by the Cornell University Aeronautical Lab. So the circuit owner, Jim Vail, went to the local university to ask them to design the circuit in their aeronautics labs.
That is quite interesting indeed. And we've got Eric Verlet going back atop the standings. Oh, and as I say that, Rob the Lobster with a 48.9, first of the field to break into the 48s here in qualifying. And just etching off the Mercedes of Eric Verlet by about 1/10 of a second, which is quite a lot on such a short track. To be fair, I wouldn't be surprised to see them separated by hundreds of seconds rather than tenths here as we see the end of qualifying. Mind you, turn 1 has a very nice name to it. Big Bend it is. And if I'm very much not mistaken, I think turn 2, is that the left-hander? It is? Oh, that's turn 3, of course. So Big Bend is actually turn 1 and 2. Turn 3 is the left-hander. Turn 4, as Eric Verlet is making his way through, that's the right-hander. We're now coming onto the uphill, very aptly named indeed. This is the back straight, because that's actually what it is. Here is West Bend, and then he's heading onto the downhill underneath the bridge, and the downhill is also the final corner, which leads you on to the Sam Posey Straight, as we can see from the bridge there. So I love the corner names here at Lime Rock. It's something a little less serious, a little more humorous, I want to say, and that's right down my alleyway. If you know me, just a little bit. That to be very true indeed.
Of course, there's no joke at all about Sam Posey, one of the absolute legends of American motorsport. And Sam Posey, he actually used to come and practice here when he was underage, but when he was too young to have a racing license, he used to come here and practice in secret, effectively. And he won many IMSA GTU races in Datsuns, in fact, at Lime Rock Park in the 70s.
Oh, that's quite interesting as well here. Oh, speaking of hundredths of a second, Peter, Tian Pavičić has just gone second fastest by just that 1/100th of a second, separating himself and Eric Verlet. And those two are closer than close already. And then Valdir Suarez Jr. now in 4th place, Kamal Hashimi provisionally 5th. And then Pete Plastow, Pedro Marimon, and Cohen Mulder in 8th place at the moment. Oh, someone's off there. Excuse me. And actually, well, I think that was Inigo Roger, which is a newcomer to the series. Gonna have a look at here because Eric Verlet just pushing a little bit too hard and hitting the tire barrier there.
That's the good thing here at Lime Rock Park in qualifying is it's not like at Silverstone where you have a 2-minute lap where you have to go all the way back to pit lane and then do another big long out lap. You can really put it on the ragged edge here in qualifying on iRacing, because again, unlike in the real world, you would have to put the car back in the truck if you crashed it. Here you can just get going again and you can be back onto a flying lap before you know it. So really, to get that best result in qualifying, you've really got to step out over your comfort zone. Look who we have here, number 65, Jack Werrell, our very own Jack Werrell, fellow commentator, who, true to form, is being lazy and sitting in pit lane.
We'll have it. We're now thinking that we're actually sneaking on him. We're looking, Jack. We're always looking. You can't hide. You better get a lap in, mate. Although, actually, Jack Werrell is sitting there in the top 10, which is not horrible at all. Here, Pete Plastow, as we mentioned before, he's 6th. Still in a very good position, both in the championships and looking to qualify well here. And I think we should notice here, of course, the Big Bend being a pretty good overtaking opportunity. But that aside, there aren't really any obvious overtaking opportunities. And
no.
Yeah,
there aren't. Like you say, Big Bend is the only one that you've really got to set that up. Coming out the downhill, the final corner, set it up down the Stamposi straight, and then stuff it up the inside going into Big Bend. But that's why this qualifying session is really, this is the most important 20 minutes of the event, because that track position is so hard gained. And also coming into this opening section here, it's quite slow, sort of second gear, and it kind of goes right, left. And when you've got a pack of cars trying to make their way through there, there's often incidents. So this qualifying, trying to get up that order is really important. As we see Suarez Jr., he's only in 4th position, so he'll need to. He would probably prefer to be slightly higher up than that normally.
Indeed, he would. He has yet to see a starting position that was less than 1st. So standards are very high indeed for Valdir Suarez Jr., but it is Rob the Lobster, Robert van den Heuvel, who is still the only one to break into the 48s. 49.04 for Dejan Pavicic, 49.05 for Eric Verley. And Valdir Suarez Jr. 49.19, so just a little tad off the front runners there, as Jose Godinho finds himself slightly obstructed by the Technics Ferrari. I almost forgot about that. The number 27 machine. That is a pretty car indeed, I want to say, and I think it's one of the coolest sponsors I've seen on a race car, of course, even digital. And so, as a former DJ or someone who used to spin quite a lot of records, I think that's something I hold close to my heart. Indeed. Sorry, Peter?
I think Jack Werrell has just had a massive accident coming out of pit lane about maybe 20 or 30 seconds ago. Just all of a sudden, I saw an orange and black Mercedes upside down just going into Big Bend. It looked like he'd just come out of pit lane, or someone had come out of pit lane in front of him. So let's have a look. He gets on the grass, gets into a little bit of a spin, and Jack. Oh dear. Oh my word.
So that's quite the impressive incident from Jack Werrell here. Let's have a look at it on board, as he does very well actually to just make it into a perfect 180, Peter, but then he becomes the launch pad of the fellow Mercedes, and that must have been a hair-raising moment if ever he's experienced one. Young Jack Werrell, and he's now still standing here with 7 minutes left to go. I wonder why they haven't just reset back here. Robert van den Heuvel is in the pits at the moment. Dejan Pavicic is 2nd, and Eric Verley 1st, and we've got Audi, BMW, and Mercedes, and then a Ferrari 4th. So a wonderful mix of manufacturers indeed. Peter, you mentioned this earlier, but it's really coming to show and to prove correctly for itself here that the cars are really, really close at this track, and that's something we love to see.
is, yeah. So we've got Audi, BMW, Mercedes, Ferrari, even the Ford. This is the best we've seen. The Ford GT with Chris Pio up in 12th place. So clearly the Ford GT very happy on home soil here in the United States. Chris Pio, look at that. That's what a race car should look like on the inside, and this is what a race car should sound like. Oh, no paddle shift. Look at that sequential, proper lever gear shift. That's a race car and a half. That is what they all should be like.
That is the grunt of a proper big V8 indeed. And Chris Pio, who's, I have to say, he's actually been doing quite well in stringing together the performances. He's finished the races, and he's finished well up in the midfield in a car that, so the legend says at least, is uncompetitive, to say the least. And as you can see on the other side, it says hurricane warning. So maybe we want to refer to him as Hurricane Chris coming through, and he might blow the opposition away today. Let's see when the racing gets going here up through the S's onto the back straight. But indeed, to get serious again, Peter, 12th place in that Ford GT is a darn good performance here, and hopefully he'll be able to stay at that end of the field for the final 5 minutes of qualifying. And as you touched upon earlier, indeed, it is extremely important to qualify well here. Overtaking opportunities are not aplenty. Plus, you're just in the danger zone. If you're in 20th, 25th, or even further back in the field, and on that first lap with a narrow track, the walls are very close in places, and some sketchy corners, especially on the cold tires they'll be experiencing for the opening couple of corners or so. That combination can make it very scary to be sitting there in the midst of the pack. So the further up you can be, basically, the better it is indeed.
Certainly is, yeah, absolutely. So we've got about 4.5 minutes left in this qualifying session, so still plenty of opportunity for our drivers to get out there and turn plenty of laps, try and get a few in, as we see Robert van den Heuvel. As you'll see, his name's coming up there on the bottom left, strangely, so that's good news. In the number 23 machine, Robert the Lobster, the man born in 1971. He's a PSV Eindhoven fan, so I'd imagine half of Holland have now just switched off the broadcast.
I don't know. I know that they're basically the football clubs of Philips, the company Philips, and that's, I suppose, something that someone would find uncharming, whatever you want to say. Not that I have any sort of problem with it at all. And if you're from Eindhoven, well, it makes it all the more obvious here. Oh, Rob the Lobster though going very slowly. Is he watching the stream while racing?
He's just ruined. I must be honest. He's absolutely ruined. Number 31, Suarez Jr. is the championship leader coming through in a hot lap, and he's touring on the racing line. That's a big no-no in motorsport. You do not do that in qualifying. Tour along off pace on the racing line in a group qualifying session. That's a big no-no. We see it in car racing, we see it in bike racing, but that spoiled any lap that Valdir Suarez Jr. was on there.
Well, luckily it's not the last lap for Valdir Suarez Jr. and he's flashing the cars ahead. He wants to come through quickly here. That's the car of, I think that's Martin de Jong, who catches a bit of a slide and actually catches the bit of a slide that he got the car in there earlier. That's of course easier in the Mercedes than in certain other cars, especially the McLaren. As we see, the McLaren catch the grass on the inside, just trying to get out of the way, taking a bit of a pirouette, and that's Dirk Brinksma. Indeed, it's Valdir Suarez Jr., who is Brazilian. And I've tried to get our overlay to stop paying attention to his iRacing number and whatever data and info comes along with that, and to understand that I wanted it to show a Brazilian flag for Valdir today. But just like the name of Rob the Lobster, of Robert van den Heuvel, we seem to have a bit of issue, me and SDK, our otherwise very brilliant software, but just on these parts, it might just be me not knowing it. If it's so, viewers, I'm sorry. I'll get it. Sunday, oh, Valdez Suarez Jr. getting a little impatient with the cars ahead, and I do understand him. He's in 4th place. He's really wanting to improve upon that position, and right now he just cannot find the open track space to actually do so. And his qualifying sessions is becoming a long battle at the moment, and that is anything but what you want. Here is he's just sending it up the inside of the downhill corner, and that sends someone, I think, into the wall.
Into the wall.
The Scotsman.
Yeah, Ross Jack and the Mercedes getting just they were just only the slightest of touch, but that's such a big commitment corner, the turn 7 of downhill, that it just requires the smallest of contacts. You'll see this here, tiniest bit of contact.
I hardly even think they had contact. I think Ross couldn't really.
Maybe echoed possibly, but. Yeah, but interesting, Hasse. I think maybe the track temperature is beginning to climb as well, because we haven't seen any drivers set a personal best time for quite some time. Yes, it's gone up ever so slightly to 46 degrees centigrade, so only one, so not an enormous difference. But interestingly, we haven't seen any of the drivers set personal best lap times. We've seen a lot of them come into pit lane, so some of them might come in to put new tyres on, so I wouldn't say it's a tyre issue. It's a strange one that we've not seen anybody improve on their time in the last 5 or 10 minutes.
I think it's all to do with track temperature. Indeed, Peter, I think it's a very good call here, as we are nearing and now actually reaching the moment where the checkered flag comes out for qualifying, and that means the drivers will have this lap that they're on now to finish. This is the last shot indeed, and Robert van den Heuvel is right on the tail of Valdez Suarez Jr., and I am looking at the sectors. Cohen Mulder has gone purple in the final sector, but not by enough, I'm afraid. Nope. And speaking of sectors, it was looking purple. I think that was red for him at the moment there. No improvement as well from Robert van den Heuvel.
But it's pole position for the Dutchman, Robert van den Heuvel. Brilliant maiden pole position for him in the Audi, with Dean Pavicic in the BMW in second, and Eric Verlet in the Mercedes in third. And your championship leader, Suarez Jr., he's in fourth. So it's going to be an interesting start to this race, I think, Hasse.
Oh yeah, it really is. It's going to be a little bit different than what we've seen so far now. For the first time, the qualifying session not really working out for Valdez Suarez Jr., and, mind you, we have this added element of a pit stop to actually take care of. So that's something completely else as well. Now, let's get on to the grid. It's Robert van den Heuvel, Rob the Lobster for HM Digital on pole position in front of Dean Pavicic, Eric Verlet, Valdez Suarez Jr., Cohen Mulder in 5th, then Kamal Hashimi in 6th place with Pete Plastow, Alfredo Tricarici, Jose Godinho in 9th, and we've got Pedro Cladera in 10th place. Drew Williams, the American, in 11th, and Chris Pio in the Ford GT 12th. That's very nice to see. Jack Werrell, our very own colleague here, usually in the booth. Today he's behind the wheel, and he is in 13th on the grid in front of Dirk Resky, Stephen Orrell, Martin de Jong, Nacho Pascual, Gaston Bori, Ross Jack, the Scotsman, and EJ Fuellner. Mauricio Coelho, Inigo Roger, he's a newcomer to the series as well. And then Dirk Bringsma, Niels Cornelis in 24th place. And just for the final few places on the grid there, that's Jacob Gibson, 25th, Stephen Krall, Pat Teff, Timo Paya, and Nick Stein in 29th place. And with that said, we are about 40 seconds away from the start of the formation lap. And in not too long we'll get the action underway here, as the final drivers are joining the grid now. This is the time to try to get the heart rate under control and try to just remain calm. And this is always where the nerves really seem to build up. And indeed, it can be quite the hard time actually as a driver because if you can't keep the nerves under control coming into a race, you're just much more likely to make a mistake, to brake either too early, too hard, too late, or whatever, steer that little bit too much. Or is someone not making the grid here? Or it seems like next to the 24 car here, someone's just dropped off, so someone didn't make the start there, and I guess that's good luck for Chris Pio, Peter.
Yeah, the person who was to be joining him on the grid beside him, not making the start. That's a strange one. Perhaps a connection issue as our Porsche 911 iRacing pace car comes through. Now, the addition of the pit stop for this race is going to be critical, particularly for here at Lime Rock Park, because the drivers do have a 45% limit on their fuel cell. Normally, the car would go for about an hour. So that means that the drivers, they have a little bit of flexibility on when they can pit, and that might depend if they're getting held up by another driver or not. And sometimes where they take that pit stop will have to be quite fluid depending on who's in front or behind them.
So that's going to be interesting to see whether everybody gets the strategy right, or if someone gets it wrong, and if they get it wrong, how much is it going to cost them? Because you are going to need a bit of a cushion to offset any tactical disadvantages. Now the field down towards the downhill and onto the start-finish straight they'll go afterwards. And the pace car is going to swing off to the right-hand side of the track into the pit lane. And just to mention quickly before we get the racing on the way, Peter, that pit lane is a very tricky one to enter as well. It's like a narrow hole in the wall, and you have to take basically a 90-degree turn to the right. But now we're awaiting Robert van den Heuvel to just get the go on, and I think he's still waiting. And they're running and they're green, and he gets a very good start. Oh, that's a poor start, but Dejan Pavicic, who gets totally bogged down. And look at that, Valdez Suarez Jr. is now fighting Kamal Hashimi for second place. And Kamal Hashimi keeps a hold of it. It's Eric Fillet there in fourth. I think Dejan Pavicic in fifth. And Trickerici in the Argentina BMW as well up there in seventh place. Cohen Mulder eighth. Then it's Williams Plasto, Rosjak, Jack Werrell. Oh, and someone's gone around, and I'm afraid that's Jack Werrell. No, or is it? Or is it? Stephen Orrell has had a crash, at least. And let's see, we're not watching Stephen Orrell. Oh, there it is. So, a big pile-up. And that's Chris Pio involved as well. So, very bad luck indeed for Chris Pio. And let's see here, Inigo Roger, he's had a bit of a crash as well. Although not the most dramatic of come-togethers. And then we saw... Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna...
Hashimi, what an absolute start from him. Sorry, go on, Hasse.
I was just gonna have just one more look at the incidents there, because Jack Werrell has a big moment and he manages somehow to keep that alive across the grass, car sliding left and right. He keeps it cool, but he is into the pits, however, for repairs here. And as you say, Peter, Kamal Hashimi is right on the tail of Robert van den Heuvel. And so it begins. So it begins. Look at this. Is that close or what?
Sir, they're coming down to Big Bend here, and it looks like Hashimi's got the measure of Robert van den Heuvel on the brakes. But Kamal Hashimi on the start, absolute rocket launch. But then is absolutely threads the needle between, I think it was Suarez Jr. and Pavicic. I mean, just no more than an Audi R8's width, and he just goes for it and makes it work. So we see Jack Werrell, I think, on the right there. Yep, he's moving over. Very, very good discipline there from our esteemed colleague, and over the jump we go. Whoa, it's almost like is it the Flugplatz at the Nürburgring? It's you get that big old launch.
And here another look at that overtake, which got quite sketchy. There's that Jack Werrell coming out, or it's one of the other Mercedeses. That is, I believe, Jack. No, that's not Jack Werrell. That is Jack Werrell.
Yep.
So almost getting sketchy there, but Kamal Hashimi now having taken the lead early days. And Audi 1-2, Eric Verley up into third place there. Dejan Pavicic following along, and Valdez Suarez Jr., he's hanging in there. but he is not looking like the Valdir Suarez Jr. that we've seen for the past 2 rounds of this series, where he's just been that step above everybody else on track. Right now he's seeming a little more human than he's done so for the last 2 rounds, as I mentioned. But let's see if he cannot get back into the groove. Good evening to Porsche Sport. Good evening to Andreas, Jet Set Radio, Mariska as well. And to Martin, which I take it will be Martin de Jong. We did check out your livery. Does look good. And of course, Jack Well, who's in there racing, getting his hands dirty and his elbows out. Good old rubbing indeed. Eric Verley there, fastest lap on a 49.43. It's on lap 5. And just 4 minutes into a 40-minute race. And action is really all over here. Jose Godinho in the battle for 11th place. He's on the tail of Ross Jack, the Scotsman, who's climbed quite well actually early days here. He's up into the top 10, climbing 9 places. That's really nice for Ross indeed.
It's very impressive because he was involved in that incident on lap 1, so he's done an incredible job to get back going again and doing well, as Dean Pavicic puts in the fastest lap of the race, and then Koen Mulder goes better again, 49.2. Really, really impressive there, as we see Ross Jack almost losing the spot to Godinho, but not quite, in that lovely DuPont liveried Audi R8. And Alfredo Tricarici, he's been incredibly unlucky in the first 2 rounds of the season, getting involved in other people's incidents, but today got a much cleaner start, and his BMW Z4 will really suit this tight and twisty Lime Rock Park layout. So he's up to 6th place, and don't forget, he has experience of racing in the real world. He races a BMW M235i at the Nürburgring, in fact.
That's quite impressive indeed. What's also quite impressive is the fact that Kamal Hashimi, over the opening 7 laps of the race, and this happened a lot faster than the opening 7 laps, I can tell you that much. Kamal Hashimi, who came from quite a bit of way down, he's gained 5 places to lead the race already. And Porsche Sport asks us if we know what this field really needs. And I suppose the answer to that is, of course, a Porsche GT3 car in iRacing.
And it would be very successful here at Lime Rock Park, because last year in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, who come here every year to Lime Rock Park, it was a Porsche 911 GT3 that won in the GTD class with Pfaff Motorsports, with Dennis Olsen and Zachary Robichon, the Canadians. So yes, a good case for that particular car to come in to this class on iRacing.
Yeah, indeed it is here. Oh, we've had another off track for Jack Werrell, and someone's plain stopped there on the inside. That is the Mercedes getting onto the grass, and you know what? Oh, he just picks it around.
So easy. That's a very typical Lime Rock Park turn 1, turn 2 accident. It's so easy. You just get outbrake yourself slightly, and then you get onto the marbles and the dusty section, and then you're onto the grass. And once you're onto the grass, well, it's a little bit like trying to drive on snow or ice. It's very, very difficult to get the car going the direction you want it to. So it's plenty drivers of Jack's ability and more have made that mistake, believe me.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, and we're on board with Eric Verlaine, and gets someone was parked on that inside still. I think that's Timo Paya.
I don't believe what I've just seen, Hasse. That was outrageous. Parked on the road, and then turns directly to the left with the leaders going past him. I don't know what on earth he was thinking about there.
Well, look at the car of Eric Verley up ahead there. Oh, he hits so he clips the grass on the inside, loses the car. And Eric Verley, the very unlucky recipient of that incident in the end, and that's not going to help the chances of the Dutchman one single bit. And now back into it here, because he's coming under pressure now from Koen Mulder, and Alfredo Tricarici is there looking to go almost 3 wide into the Big Bend. And Tricarici made it through, and so Koen Mulder, opportunistic as ever. That was a very nice move. And we're gonna go on board here, or just with the nose cam. As you can see, Cohen Mulder there sneaking up the inside and getting through as well on the stricken Eric Verlet, who seems to be pretty bad off. He's not in a good state with that car, I'm afraid. That could have been some damage to the steering rack as well, and very unlucky indeed.
Incredibly unlucky, and there was absolutely nothing he could have done. You know, the car just snapped straight left, right on the apex. It's, yeah, absolutely nothing poor Eric Verlet could do. As we see, Robert van den Heuvel very, very wide, and that allowed Pavicic past in the BMW, so that's interesting. So now that Pavicic has got by, you never know. He might be able to bridge that gap up towards Hashimi. You never know. So this BMW, certainly, we've not seen it quite come into its own at Silverstone or at Okayama, but at this Lime Rock Park circuit, it's just a perfect combination.
It really is. It really is. And let's see here, Pavicic, who's been very quick indeed in practice as well. So let's just see how he's going to be able to get anything out of this situation now. Up into second place, chasing down Kamal Hashimi, but Kamal Hashimi has been on a brilliant pace as well, starting fifth, and he's lapping half a second quicker than the rest of the front runners on the last lap here, which that's pretty damn good as well.
I think that might well be to do with when Van den Heuvel and Pavicic swapped places. I think that maybe slowed them up ever so slightly, so we'll need to see what it's like this time around with a clear lap. But I think, Hasse, lap traffic is going to play massively into that. We saw that incident that Eric Verlet got involved in, no fault of his own. But yes, that's gonna be fascinating to see how that plays out throughout the race, because, well, with the pit stops, the whole track is going to get really jumbled up, and for the leaders, they're going to be fighting lap traffic a lot. So that's critical to be able to manage that properly.
Yeah, indeed it is, and it's going to be a good view to just how that develops over the course of the race. Now Eric Verlet falling into the clutches of Drew Williams, and Drew Williams have gained a good amount of positions here over the opening course of the race. Pete Plastow is down into 9th place, and I think there was an overtake as well there, because that looks to me like Cohen Mulder just got past on Alfredo Tricarici, and we're gonna have another look. Oh, and that's the car of Martin de Jong. Ho 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 ho! Cohen Mulder, very nice racecraft to just sneak on by. Alfredo Tricarici is gonna be fuming, that's for sure. And Eric Verlet is into the pits.
This will be interesting to see. So although Hasse, do you know if the drivers, they've started off with a 45% fuel load, can they then fill up to 100% in their pit stop, or do they have a limited fuel cell? Do you know?
They have that limited fuel cell, and they're not going to be able to fill up to more than the 45%. So the pit window opens whenever they can reach the finish line here, as Valdir Suarez Jr. is looking on the outside at Robert van den Heuvel, and how he has the courage to stick that one around the outside, I have absolutely no clue, but he does so, and it's absolutely brilliant. Here it is on board. Oh, that happens on a very limited amount of space there, and Valdir Suarez Jr., make no mistake about it, he was coming through up into 3rd place. He was in a rush as well, because he wants to be able to keep up. He knows that a couple of seconds up ahead is Dejan Pavicic and Kamal Hashimi, and Robert van den Heuvel now in 4th place. Cohen Mulder, who has been good and then less good at the last race, but he seems to be coming back together here for him, and Alfredo Tricarici, who for once has not been involved in anything that's been no real fault of his own, because it's happened to him for the opening 2 races indeed, hasn't it, Peter?
Yeah, and interestingly, for Eric Verlet, I think, because normally it's about 1 hour for a full tank of fuel in the GT3 car, so 45%, just below half an hour. So I think by the time Eric Verlet gets his damage repaired and takes fuel, I think he might, with a bit of fuel saving perhaps, he might be able to get home from here. So he's been able to come in and get his damage fixed, but also, also be able to take his pit stop. So he'll not need to take another pit stop. So I think he might be okay.
Drew Williams having a bit of a moment there on the inside on the grass, but keeping it running, though conceding the position to Jose Godinho, who's now up into 8th place. Pete Plastow up into 7th place. Drew Williams there now in 9th. Ross Jack in 10th place, and then Coelho in 11th.
Owen Mulder lapping very, very strong, 49.7 last time around. So he could be an outside shot for the podium here. We've seen him have some really, really impressive pace so far this season, but not been able to string a whole race together. He's had a couple of incidents, but look at that. Robert van den Heuvel and Suarez Jr. aren't far up the road from him. So a good opportunity for a podium here for the Ferrari driver.
Yeah, indeed, a very good opportunity, and I think he's going to want to see if he can just grab that opportunity by the scruff of its neck and drag it home. But cannot force too much here. 15 minutes almost into the race, and that's just 5 minutes of the halfway through mark, and that means that that pit window is getting closer and closer to opening. If not, it's already opened. I wouldn't be surprised to find that it's really not a lot of first of all fueling that they'll have to do, and of course it's going to be a little bit, but I do believe the pit window is going to be opening within not too long. There's someone's off on the left hand side, and I'm not quite sure who that was. Still
interesting to see the guys in the sequence who maybe feel like they're being held up by the driver in front and might take that early pit opportunity to try and desperately get some free air, because if you feel like you're not running to your optimum pace, you've got to get out of that sequence because it can really, really hurt you. At the moment though, Ross Jack, he's running very impressive at the back of the top 10 right now, but after being involved in an incident in lap 1, he's doing really, really well to be up in the top 10, and could see him go forward during this race. But back at the front, Kamal Hashimi, well, what can you say about him? It's been an amazing drive so far from the Audi man, holding off Pavicic and Suarez. And, well, if Suarez wants to make it 3 wins in a row, he's got a lot of work to do.
It's a big piece of work cut out for him at the head of affairs. And I'm going to be having a look at the lap times of the 2 leaders, because still Hashimi just a few tenths up on both Pavicic, Suarez, and actually Van den Heuvel. Oh, it's coming! Come on, Hashimi is in the wall!
Oh no!
Silence and shoot! Silence and shoot in the booth. That's the 23 anime car that's up, but I don't know how he just turns there all of a sudden on his own, at least.
Mercedes, I think he got spooked by the Mercedes.
He just got
in front of him.
He got put off there. He touched the grass all on his own and goes around. And I think that's it for Kamal Hashimi. He's down in 7th. He will have damaged his car just a little bit. Although it doesn't seem too bad for me. It is a soft wall that he hits there. But big drama indeed. And a new race leader here in Dejan Pavicic. And all of a sudden, Peter, as well, Valdir Suarez is in 2nd place. Just under 3 seconds off of our leader here. And Robert van den Heuvel is actually doing very well to keep the pace of the leaders at the moment. This has brought Koen Mulder up into 4th. Alfredo Tricorici, of course, up into 5th. And Pete Plastow, who was down in 9th at some point in the race, is back up into 6th place, right in front of Kamal Hashimi.
Yeah, I think he does that. The Audi can be notoriously twitchy, especially on the changes of direction. The big, heavy mid-engine layout. See what's happened to Eric Verlet here. He's got involved. Oh dear, he's in the wall. Not a good day for Eric Verlet. I think he's maybe blown the engine as well. But what a shame for for Hashimi because he was going so well, and I think he just got put off by the Mercedes coming back onto the track, and really unlucky actually. But that changes the complexion of the race completely, because Pavicic now, he's looking and he's going to be leading the race, but he's going to see P2 is Suarez Jr. and he'll know exactly who that is and how fast they are. So this is going to change the race completely, and it's going to be interesting to see when the drivers take their pit stops and also how it all filters out after the pit stops have been taken. However, it might be that a lot of the drivers, they want to go right to the very end of their fuel window, literally run it out of fuel to try and have as much of time as possible with a lower fuel load in the car. It's a marginal difference, but some drivers really do notice it.
Now look at this battle, Peter. This is the car of Gaston Boré that just goes right onto the grass there, and one of the lap cars gets the chance to unlap itself. Up ahead is Ross Jack, and he's battling Coelho, the second Brazilian here in the Audi. Both Brazilians running Audis here, and they were getting sort of close before, but that was of course with Gaston Boré as well. And then we've got Dirk Reski and Chris Pio, I believe, not too far from one another, or well, it's actually wrong on the part about they were not too far from one another. They're 10 seconds apart. But we do have Dirk Reski here for Holy Cow Racing in the number 18 machine in the flame-spitting McLaren MP4-12C GT3 car.
Yeah, very, very sexy name, isn't it?
Yes, yes, that's one of the unsexiest names ever.
Yeah, and Jack Werrell there as well. He's one lap down on the leaders right now as we see Alfredo Tricarici in the BMW. He's now up to 5th position after Kamal Hashimi's incident. So, and that is just sweet music, that flat crank V8 of this BMW Z4. And I have to say, compared to the street car that it's based upon, it is a very, very exotic machine that, and had a lot of wins. It's not really campaigned anymore in top-level GT3 racing, but when it did, 67 race wins, including a Spa 24 Hours victory.
Certainly a car that has the hearts of a lot of motor racing fans across the world. Indeed, here still on board with Alfredo Tricarici, as we can see the Ferrari, the mid-engine Ferrari, getting close here in the slower sections, and then it seems to me that in the high-speed corners in the latter part of the track, the BMW, at least on the last lap for Tricarici, seemed to just pull away a little bit. Indeed, it's of course Pete Plastow in 6th place, who's on the tail of Tricarici here as we're riding with the gearbox cam. Those two are about some of the closest we can find on track, although Valdez Suarez Jr. is actually losing time to Robert van den Heuvel. Look at this, Peter. Robert van den Heuvel is doing a brilliant job of coming back here. He's gone from being around 2 seconds down on the Brazilian ahead to being about, well, that's less than a second. To me, that's 7/10 indeed. And van den Heuvel is very much back in it here. Koen Mulder, of course, still not out of it at all either. And as we saw for Kamal Hashimi, who's now riding there in 7th place, he was leading, he was doing so well. All it took was one tiny mistake, and that could happen to every single one of them. So nothing, of course, is over before the checkered flag drops.
No, definitely not. And we're going to see this happen a lot. I think Suarez Jr., he's definitely getting slowed up by the lap traffic there as the 2-2-1. Oh, this is getting very... Oh, no, that's Dirk Reski as well, and Jack Werrell's managed to avoid it. So 3 cars spinning off in front of him, and one of them taking a tow back to pit lane as well. I think that was Gaston Boré, and then Nacho Pascual. He's got that car crabbing all over the place, so he's obviously got big steering damage and decides to take an electronic tow back to pit lane as well. So not a good end to the race for them, but still Alfredo Tricarici still keeping the Ferrari of Plastow behind him. But yeah, for sure, we're going to see the lap traffic really playing an effect here with such a short lap. 49 seconds is really, really, really short. And also, it's not a wide circuit either. There's very few passing opportunities anyway. So a real challenge here at Lime Rock Park. And that's why in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, they actually don't bring... Normally the GT cars and prototype cars race together, but at Lime Rock, they race just the GT cars. As we see, oh dear, Plastow coming into pit lane there and proving just how tricky it is to get in there cleanly.
Gonna have a second look at that. Pete Plastow flying into the pit lane a bit too. Oh, and he just collects the tire barrier straight up. That's really not the way you want to get in there, and that's surely gonna cost him some time that he did not need to lose. Jet Set Radio, yes, they do have a single fast repair for this race, and now that we have a pit stop, that's somewhat mandatory to take anyways. That's gonna help whoever picks up a bit of damage, especially those when it's not race ending. And you can come in as soon as the pit window opens, get that damage fix, and be back on your pace. So I think that's nice to see.
It's strange because I just looked in the iRacing session and it says no fast repairs. So that's an interesting one. We'll need to try and get some clarification on that one. But the iRacing session says 0. So I get that will be really interesting if that's the case or not. But but anyway, yeah, Dean Pavicic still out front, but I think Suarez Jr. now he's got a sight of him. He's just clawing him in, and for Suarez Jr. it's all about that. As we talk about it a lot, mirror driving. If you're got your eyes forward and you're looking at your braking points, your turning points. As we see, Pavicic goes into the pits. Okay, so he's the first of our real leaders coming in to take the pit stop. So now, watch Suarez now. Suarez Jr. in the Ferrari, watch him really open the taps up now, because this in and out laps, they're so important to get the jump in the pits.
Yeah, it really is. This is time for the Schumacher laps now, because Michael Schumacher, he was famous for the ability to put on the necessary laps at necessary speed, and he was almost always guaranteed to actually pull it off. So as well as he's known for crashing into championship rivals, just to say that I'm not just a blind Schumi fan, he was also known for being very good at that particular thing, except for being, of course, or apart from being a very brilliant driver altogether, an absolute legend. Fight on, Schumi. Do recover well. Valdez Suarez is, however, getting back to the racing here. He's not really distancing Robert van den Heuvel. Robert van den Heuvel was within 7/10 before that. That was it, and he's lost about half a second to the Brazilian up ahead. Koen Mulder, though, has lost a little more time as well. He's got a good gap down to Tricorici of about 5 seconds, and Jose Godinho is up there as well. But the thing is that Jose Godinho has yet to pit in. Now we have Rosjak and Chris Pio. Well, Rosjak is exiting the pits. Chris Pio is entering. And here we have Van den Heuvel pitting in. And he has a good grip on that pit entrance. No mistakes made.
Coming in the Ferrari also. So that's interesting. And but still Tricorici and I think Suarez have both gone around. So that's interesting. So they're running. Looks like Suarez Jr. will be running the tank as long as he possibly can to try and get those quick laps in on low fuel.
Indeed, that is true. Here's Dirk Reski, who's the last of the cars out on track not to have gone in so far. The last running car alongside Gaston Borri there, who's right ahead of him. His in has gone Coelho, and Coelho's coming out in not too long. I think that was Robert van den Heuvel coming out right behind these two. So, of course, where are you going to come out comparing to these? Oh, here in comes Valdez Suarez Jr.
Yep, so this is going to be fascinating to watch to see how can Valdez Suarez Jr. make the jump on Mulder, on Godinho, on Van den Heuvel, and Plastow as well. This is going to be fascinating to see when he comes out there. It'll just be quite a small splash of fuel, and of course, if you do go longer, you've got to take longer in the pit lane to fill up as well. So Suarez Jr. was back out. There's Hashimi, but I don't think he's pitted yet. So this is going to be interesting to see where it all filters out again with Suarez Jr. now out the pits. And there's Koen Mulder. He's definitely made up time on Suarez Jr., I'm sure.
Koen Mulder, who actually has been in. Robert van den Heuvel has been gapped by Koen Mulder, and the Dutchmen are battling one another here. Well, the Ferrari is ahead now. The number 3 car of Koen Mulder is now chasing the other Ferrari of Valdur Suarez Jr. And in behind they have Gaston Borri. I think he is the last of the cars. Of course, that's not completely true because Jose Godinho has yet to pit, and so goes for Alfredo Tricarici. And anyone
looks like Suarez has made the jump then, interestingly. So Suarez has made... He's now your leader, so no sign of the BMW of Pavicic. He's back in 9th, so goodness knows what's happened to him. And also, definitely Van den Heuvel's made a mistake because he was comfortably ahead of Koen Mulder going into the pit stop. So the pit stops, whether it's the in-laps, the out-laps or whatever, but there's been a lot that has happened during the pit cycle, and it's completely shaken the order up.
So here we have it, the entrance for Dejan Pavicic. No mistakes made, but was there a little bit of damage to repair perhaps? That could be it. It looks to have been a very long pit stop for Dejan Pavicic, and I think he must be absolutely heartbroken to find himself in that position now, having to battle up through the field. There's just over 10 minutes of racing left, and while he does know he has the pace. Oh, and who's that? That's Ross Jack. Your Scottish heart, Peter. Your Scottish heart will be bleeding, and Ross Jack is in the wall, and that was a big hit indeed.
It was just at the point where he looked to see, I think, if he could get into pit lane to try and repair the damage, but he was already past pit lane entrance. So, yeah, very typical Lime Rock. Oh, that's a big hit. That's a very typical Lime Rock Park accident. Coming out of downhill, you're just trying to snip every last bit, and he's definitely got steering damage. That's not, oh dear, not a good day for Ross Jack, the Scotsman in the 22 car. But look at Jose Godinho. He's certainly making this Audi, well, he's making really good with the fuel saving in the 24 Jeff Gordon tribute paint scheme on his Audi, but he's got to be coming in for fuel soon, surely.
Yeah, I think it's about stretching as far as that will possibly go. Here we're on board with Jack Werrell in the number 65 car. He's in 16th place at the moment, of course, racing for SimRacers World TV. The only driver on that team for the time being. Of course, not the only SimRacers World driver, but with the TV moniker to his team name. The only one driving, as someone's off there, and
I think that might be Koen Mulder. It's a very similar paint scheme.
That was not Koen Mulder. I was not Koen Mulder. Okay. I think that was Gaston Borri. I think that was Gaston Borri, if I'm very much not mistaken. We'll have to have a look back and see just who that was. And for once, I got something right. Because I do tend to, just as Murray Walker once beautifully put it, that commentators usually make prophecies that instantly turn out to be wrong. But for once, I got it right here. And Gaston Borri has found himself in a spot of bother indeed. And look at this now, Koen Mulder right on the tail of the other Ferrari, and they're now closer than close. And Valdir Suarez, he's behind the Technics Ferrari. Sorry, Peter, go on.
Yeah, that Technic, you're right, that Technics Ferrari is just playing havoc here, that lap traffic. Nobody moving over at all on the blue flag, so that's setting a precedent for the rest of the season. A little bit of damage there on the right corner of Suarez Jr.'s car, but nothing to worry about at the moment. But as they head through West Bend downhill towards turn 7 downhill, and this is a really big commitment corner, and this is where Koen Mulder could try and pounce a little bit of surprise. He's flashing his lights furiously to his fellow Ferrari, the black and pink Technics Ferrari. Can he make this up the inside? Number 2 car goes wide, gives him the room.
Yeah.
Oh, just out.
He manages to make it through there. Pat Teff gets out of the way in good and neat fashion through the big bend. And Robert van den Heuvel here is still up into 3rd place again. He's got Pete Plastow for pretty close company, looking to make it a Ferrari 1, 2, 3 here with the 7 minutes left of a race that looked like it was going to be very, very mixed in terms of manufacturers at the head of standings there. It does look like the cars are twitching so bad as they head over the crest of that hill. Now into the downhill here. Robert van den Heuvel, Pete Plastow, and Tricorici has lost a bit of time as well. I think he had a slow pit stop. And speaking of slow pit stops, Dejan Pavicic, we've got Chris Pio, who's still running, and he's actually gained a position. Peter's up into 12th place.
Yeah, doing a great job, Chris Pio, in that beautiful Ford GT. Of course, everyone thinks of the brand new Ford GT and the very old GT40, but people forget about that one. And a beautiful machine, but old school. Uses actually an engine that was originally in the F-150 pickup truck, but then they put an enormous supercharger on it, which brought it up to the standard of such an exotic car. But Koen Mulder, the Dutchman, he's impressed us a lot over the opening 2 rounds, and now he's wanting to take on the big king, Suarez Jr. He wants to show him what he's made of. Ferrari versus Ferrari here. Factory paint scheme here on Koen Mulder's car. Suarez in that almost flying banana looking car. And this is Lime Rock Park racing at its very, very best. Not easy to make a move stick, but with 5 minutes to go, do not be surprised to see Koen Mulder try.
Indeed, I'd say he'll be just trying to square out his opponent and see just where he's weak, see where he can get the run. And I think that might be a good situation now if he can get a good exit from the final corner, although we've seen Valdir Suarez be very strong out of this final corner time and time again. And yet again, look at this, Koen Mulder is not able to really take advantage of the slipstream because he doesn't get an exit to rectify that kind of thing onto the back straight, or the start-finish straight, I'm sorry. And of course, that makes it very difficult to get past on Valdir Suarez Jr. We're into the last 5 minutes of racing here. Robert van den Heuvel is now with a 1.5 second lead on Pete Plastow there. And in behind, well, Tricorichi's got ample space. You know what? Jose Coutinho, Peter, he's up into 6th place. That's absolutely brilliant. He's been running quite a bit of way down the order, but he's been having a clean race indeed. And he's now looking to get through on, I think that's the Audi of Williams. And the car behind is Chris Pio. He's a lap car as well compared to these. And then there'll be around 5.5 seconds then down to Dejan Pavicic. Coelho, Dirk Reski in 9th at the moment, and then Kamal Hashimi, who very unlucky, seemed to be going so well. He started in 6th place. He found himself leading after not too long indeed, and now he's down in 10th indeed. And let's go back here, 0.3 of a second now between the two leaders. Koen Mulder, less than 4 minutes to get it done, and I am sorry to the rest of the field, but I don't think we'll be seeing too much of them from now on. This battle, I don't think it's going anywhere for the last 5 minutes here. And Koen Mulder has really, really shown that it's been coming together. He's been finding the car over the course of this race. It's only been becoming faster, and he is indeed the pace setter at the moment. And I think the 10th that he's down on Valdir Suarez. And oh, there's an incident!
Oh no!
Oh no! And somehow, I think Valdir Suarez picked up a little bit of damage from that one. That was Jacob Gibson and Robert van den Heuvel. Van den Heuvel's been involved as well from third place. Look at that!
That's a different incident entirely.
That's an entirely different incident.
Yeah, look, here's the two Mercedes then. Jacob Gibson there.
And Martin de Jong.
Suarez definitely gets, look at that. Suarez gets a big hit on the nose. So that's really interesting then. So for Suarez, although Koen Mulder did stay behind him, Suarez, that car will not be 100%. So this is going to be really, really difficult for Suarez to hold Koen Mulder behind him. But as you said, Hasse, he's very, very good out of that final corner. And being good out of that final corner is often all you actually need around here to defend, because that is where you really need to get the run out of that corner to make it move. So if you can defend by still being quick out of turn 7, he might be able to hang on. But it's going to be fascinating to watch from here.
We've got just over 2 minutes to go, which means that to the best of my mathematical abilities, and they are poor, that needs to be said. Oh, and they made contact, and Koen Mulder is off as well, and Valdes Suarez, I cannot believe it. And is this gonna give victory to who's gonna be around to grab it? Then Pete Plasto comes through there, and no, Suarez is leading. And I'm sorry, but I was dumbfounded by what just happened there. Koen Mulder just pushing that a little bit too hard, getting involved to say the least. And you know what? Even with a damaged car, this might be a Lewis Hamilton-esque situation from the Formula 1 race earlier today. I'm very sorry to spoil it, if I do spoil it for everyone, or anyone even. But with just over a minute left of racing and a car that is not in a good shape anymore, Valdes Suarez Jr., somehow Peter is still looking at a race win here.
Yeah, I have to say, I thought that was both of their races over there. I really did. But Suarez, the way that his car got turned around, it was just luck of the draw that it was ended up pointing in the right direction. He could just get back to the gas. So watch this then. Koen Mulder gives him a big punt from behind, just maybe gets caught out with the speed of the car. So Koen Mulder's going around. But look at this. I don't know, Suarez is maybe, he just gets the perfect swing back forward and then able to get going again. So could have been so much worse for Suarez Jr., but he's been able to keep it going. And to be honest, he didn't deserve to lose the race from something like that. But this is not over yet. It'd be interesting. I don't know if we see on our timing screen if we've been taking the white flag yet or not. Can you see, Hasse, if this is the last lap?
I don't think it is. I think they'll have to do another one, but I'm not quite sure yet. We'll see. Will the checkered flag come out for Koen Mulder, or will it be one more lap here? I'm not quite sure, actually, because he's heading into the downhill. There is the 40 minutes, and the checkered flag is out. So Valdes Suarez Jr., despite that incident, makes it 3 from 3 and picks off the win from other Ferrari, Pete Plastow, for the virtual racing compound, and Ferrari 1 through 3 as well for Koen Mulder. But that got very, very, very twitchy in the end as well. And
great finish from Alfredo Tricarici to come in 4th place as well. Great drive from the Argentinian, and finishes ahead of Robert van den Heuvel, who just had that final mistake just a couple of laps from the end. But 40 minutes, long time to concentrate, so very, very easy to make that late mistake. And what a shame for Kamal Hashimi in 10th as well. But great drive also. Jose Godinho, the man from Porto, in the number 24 machine, 6th place. So some lots of personal best finishes for a lot of our drivers today.
Absolutely bonkers finish. That was insane indeed. And well, you think you've seen it all, but that just goes to show that you haven't until you've seen the Sunday GT3 World League here on SimRacers World TV. Koen Mulder taking 3rd place in the end indeed. It could have been more, but oh, what a dramatic finish. What a dramatic finish there indeed in the end. And let's go over to Peter for a readout of the race results.
So after all of that, Valdes Suarez Jr., the Brazilian, wins by 2.5 seconds from Pete Plastow, who very much profits from that incident. Koen Mulder, even after that incident, still manages to get it home in 3rd place. In 4th was Alfredo Tricarici, the Argentinian, his best result of the season. Robert van den Heuvel in the 23 Audi, 8 seconds back in 5th. 6th, Jose Godinho, definitely the best of the season for him as well. Dean Pavicic in the BMW in 7th. 8th was Mauricio Coelho. 9th, Dirk Reski in the McLaren, in the 9th place for the McLaren driver. 10th was Kamal Hashimi after leading the race so strongly. 11th, Chris Pio in the Ford GT. 12th was Drew Williams. 13th, Niels Cornelis. 14th, our very own Jack Werrell after an early incident. 15th, Martin de Jong. 16th, Gaston Borey. 17th, Pat Teff. And 18th, Jacob Gibson. And running out the rest of our runners, we have 19th, Pedro Cladera. 20th, Timo Peja. Ross Jack, the Scotsman, in 21st after a few incidents. 22nd was EJ Fielner. 23rd, Nacho Pascual. 24th, Eric Verley, who was running at the front early but taken out by an errant back marker. 25th was Stephen Orell. 26th, Stephen Crowell. 27th, Inigo Roger. And finally, 28th, Dirk Brinksma.
So indeed, that was the results brought to you from Peter MacKay, and we're gonna go over to some race interviews, and to kick them off, we're gonna go with Valdir Suarez Jr. just in a short moment. Guess we're gonna see if I can just swing up a replay of sorts while we get talking to Valdir right about now. There we are. Valdir Suarez Jr. Sorry to break you up if you were having a chat.
We were talking, but I'm sorry, no problem. Hello guys, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. And you? Congratulations on your third consecutive win. And I think the question we're all dying to hear the answer for is: come a very specific moment there on the final lap or penultimate lap or whenever that was with that big incident with Cohen.
Penultimate one, yeah.
Did you think it was over right there?
I didn't have time, to be honest, because one lap before, some guys were fighting between each other. I don't know if you guys saw, but those guys spin in front of me, and I hit the guys. And my car, I was concerned about my car was broken or something around that, so that's why I didn't push for the subsequent lap. And I saw Cohen coming. I say, hey, I'm gonna start pushing again. And he touched me, and I spun, but luckily I got on the same position on the track again. I just downshift and keep moving, and I didn't have time to think, being very honest. It was an amazing race, so I'm completely sweat on my racing seat right now, and it was really cool.
Oh, that's good to hear. And 3 races, 3 victories for you. Are you by now anyway satisfied with not winning, or would you need to make it a win at every round for you to just be completely happy at this point?
No, as I told you previously, I think that first of all, we are here to enjoy, right? So I think that now the things are getting more clear. I have a constant pace on my car. I like this car, so it was not the fast one today. I have some problems during the qualify, so during the pace, so I got a lot of people in front of me, so I was not able to push for the 48 high, but I was keeping calm and keeping the guys moving. I knew that it should be a really tricky track to move, and guys start coming and spinning and kind of thing. So, but let's keep pushing. So I'm gonna keep the same pace and thinking every race. So that should be my mood.
Brilliant stuff. I think that's going to be a good approach indeed, Valdir. Congratulations on 3 out of 3. A brilliant race, very eventful, a little too exciting maybe there in the end. Best of luck for the next race, and we do hope to have another chat with you here in the booth post-race as well. And with that, we're going to go on to our second...
Guys.
Well, thank you as well, Valdir. We're going to go on to our second place finisher. We're gonna give you a short interview here from Pete Plastow talking to Peter MacKay.
Yeah, I thought that was gonna be it.
Pete Plastow, welcome to the commentary box for the first time this season here on SimRacers World TV. A wee sneaky second position there at the end. Tell us what you tell us your thoughts when you saw a couple of Ferraris straddled all over the track there in the final laps.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that, to be honest. Basically, from the beginning of the race, my plan was just to stay clean, have a clean race, and have my own race, really. And then just watch people fall apart around me. That was the idea.
It certainly worked, anyway. That's for sure.
Seemed to pay off.
Yes, it did. And you know, here at Lime Rock Park, I have to say it's one of my favourite tracks. I love it. It's nice, tight, and twisty. It kind of reminds me of an American Knock Hill almost, just less undulating. But it's totally different from Silverstone and Okayama. How did you find the challenge this week of giving Lime Rock a go?
It's quite difficult. It's not my favourite track. I much prefer a more open track. But yeah, it's definitely different, and it was always going to be tight and twisty and difficult to stay on the track. Just put a wheel off and you're in the ditch, really. So I thought I did all right. Happy with the second place. Shame about Cohen at the end, and Robert also had an off, which allowed me through, so that was good.
Yeah, there's certainly lots going on there. How did you find the lap traffic? Because it's almost like a Skeletrix track compared to a Grand Prix circuit. So how did you find dealing with the lap traffic as the race progressed?
You just had to be patient with them. Genuinely, they were pretty good around me. I don't know how they were around other people, but they would let you through when they could, and you just have to be patient and wait behind them a little bit. But it is what it is. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Pete, congratulations on a second place finish today, and looking forward to seeing you out on track next time out at Spa.
Should be good.
So that was Peter MacKay having a word with our second place finisher, Pete Plastow. Two Petes, they could probably Pete along for quite some time indeed. And we're here with our third place finisher, Cohen Mulder. Cohen, that was a dramatic finish, if ever I've seen one. Can you talk us through how you felt things happened in that situation?
Hi guys, yeah, well, it was a dramatic second last lap. Valdir had troubles after the incident in turn 1, and I thought I could catch him up the hill, but he was slower than I thought, so I bumped his rear, unfortunately. And luckily he kept his place, and I dropped one place, but yeah, it's a shame.
So did you think that it would be completely over for podium places for your own part as well there, or were you still hoping to be able to salvage something, as you did with a good third place in the end, and very deserved as well?
Yeah, I thought it was over, and then I saw my relative, and I saw 9 seconds behind place number 4, so luckily I kept the podium. Yeah, man, cool.
And a very good race for you in general in terms of pace, considering where you were in round 1, 2, and then you're really much back on it here on round 3. Did you have any apparent reasons for your lack of pace at the last round?
Well, I thought let me start slow, because it's a tricky track and a lot of crashes can happen, so take it slow and then see what happens. And then pick up the pace when it's coming more in the race. After my pit stop, I thought, all right, now it's my time to head on.
Good stuff indeed, Cohen. And before I let you go here from the booth, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out while you're on the air?
Yeah, thank you. Shout out to all my friends and family. This time they're looking a lot. And of course, everybody is looking to YouTube. So well done. Thank you. You too.
Well, indeed, Cohen, we did catch the good amount of support for you in chat. It was wonderful to see you as well. And congratulations on a nice podium place finish for you as well here tonight. I'm going to hop over to our final interview for the evening. We're going to go over to a short talk. We're going to see if we can keep it short, but I'm going to have a bit of a chat with our colleague, that is Jack Werrell. Jack, a bit of a tough one for you, I imagine, with that early incident and having to struggle through and deal with whatever that brings along in a race.
Yeah, it was a tricky entrance to the championship. It was not ideal, but yeah, I started not where I really wanted to be. I wasn't comfortable with my pace all night, and I'm sure the driver knows who he is, so I'm not gonna name a name, but very aggressive on lap 1. So I let him go, and then he just made a slight mistake. I'm not sure whether it was inflicted by somebody else, but it just went into the side of me, and that was pretty much teetotal at that point. I had a little bit of required repairs, and I just skipped the optionals because there were like 16 minutes or something stupid. So I just went out with a car which was rather second-hand and just spent the entire race working my way back up through the order. So I think I went from 23rd or 25th up to about 14th in the end, and with a very, very, very big save. I'm not sure whether you saw that on the stream, but it was pretty code brown at the top of on the back straight after the uphill.
Oh yeah, we saw that where you did a 180 and someone took a launch off the top of the front of your car. Was that the one you mentioned?
That was the one in qualifying, which scared me.
That was a proper moment though, Jack. I have to say. I hope that next time, except for of course we're gonna have the pre-race interview. Perhaps that's what you need to get the good luck that you deserve by now. I do hope that next time around we'll see a Jack Worrell come through the race without any troubles. And Jack, as any other driver gets here in the booth, the sacred land, is there anyone you'd like to shout out while you're here?
Yeah, of course. Robert for setting up the championship and sort of powering it through and getting it on SRW, and then obviously you guys for putting up with me in the commentary box and then commentating on the race. And Ian for giving me permission to pilot his car, which probably isn't the best idea, but I've managed to do it.
Brilliant stuff. So that's a bit of Jack Worrell for you all here tonight. Anyways, by now I think the time has come for me and Peter to sign off and to say goodnight. It's been a big pleasure having you all along. Thank you so much for watching with us here on SimRacers World TV. Now, if you've liked what you've seen with me, Hasse Rømer, and Peter MacKay in the booth for this Sunday GT3 World League race sponsored by SimracerCoin, do leave a like. That was a very long segue into it. Do leave a like, and if you want to see more, you know where the subscribe button is. Indeed, from myself, Hasse Rømer, and Peter MacKay, as I said, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.